Pledge, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, do we have any public comments from anyone? Now's your time. No? Okay, then, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Motion by Danny,
Second.
second by Commissioner Johnson. Any discussion, any additions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do you wanna run us through the consent agenda quickly?
Absolutely. So we have approval of the April 5th, 22 board meeting minutes, approval of social services accounts payable, approval of the county and hospital accounts payable, approval of the hire of adult mental health social worker Emily White at level C41, step 1, 27.29 per hour, effective on May 16th. Approval of employment agreement for the Coronas Regional Campground host Colette Johnson. Approval to hire 3 temporary boat and water deputies, Tyler Hansen, Brian Franklin, and Michael Farrell. An approval of a quote for the replacement of chimneys and hanging heaters at the vehicle storage building. And that is the consent agenda.
I have one quick question. The social worker, is this her first job out of school? So this is and that's how we affect the 20, okay.
Yes, this social worker is actually completing her internship in Clay County,
Okay,
Moorhead area, working
Okay.
specifically with mental health commitments.
oh, okay, good.
So yeah, this will be her first position
Okay.
out of college.
I have a question
Sure.
too, Madam Chair. Paul, in the payables, there was $27,000 and some change for software licensing agreement and stuff. Did you do some major or do you don't know?
No, there were no major upgrades. I believe that was just for our standard licenses that we currently have. I did pay attention to exactly what the vendor is.
Yeah, and I made a note here, and it's just software licensing agreements and maintenance was the main three.
That would have been for our application extender ISC program, our electronic file system.
Okay, that sounds good. And then I see it is Ramsey working on your signage.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes, we got all the board approval, we went to purchase them, and then we had a couple of, one of our departments wanted to do some changes, so we had to do a change order, and so now I believe we have everything done, and we're just waiting for them to be put up.
Okay. All right, and then the other question I had, Andrew, do you remember what, I know we talked about these heaters with Joel, I think in budget last summer?
Yep.
Do you remember what the number, what did we, or is it in here and I didn't read far enough?
I didn't, that's my question was, what was it?
Did we budget for?
Yeah.
Do you recall? It's, oh, is that, there he is. Joel, do you remember what we budgeted for them heaters?
20,000.
Okay, so we're.
It's a
right.
little over budget, but,
It's,
it's a little higher from, cost of, the equipment. Cause the original quote, we did have a cheaper quote the original time, but, we ended up having a little bit of, increase in, equipment, but with, they didn't really have their increase, from, Chapel Central, they have some equipment that's available. That's kind of where we got into the more reasonable to the budget, so. think the other one
I just couldn't remember. I knew we talked about it last time.
Yeah.
I just couldn't remember what the number was, kinda,
Yeah,
how
we had
close.
budgeted 20.
Nowadays, yeah, I mean, you don't, what, a number that's 3 weeks old is old.
Yeah,
So I was wondering how 6 months, how we did, so, all right,
Any other questions? Do we need a resolution? Go
I
ahead,
did,
Paul, sorry.
I do have one, but I think it's the Rinky Noonan bill, but I think we'll discuss that when we get convene and go into ditch. It's
Okay.
not something we're not going to pay, it's just
Okay,
something I
Sure.
thought made for discussion.
We can maybe.
Not paying the lawyer too.
That might not be a good idea.
I know, that might get
Maybe
expensive.
this is a spot for, so it was on the payables that I noticed it. We had talked about fuel and changing, just cause fuel prices are high right now, and I was noticing it in the payables. We had talked about, buying bulk fuel and then fuel in squad cars and different things.
I don't recall that discussion.
Did we?
We did it in budget.
Oh,
we
cause I
talked
don't
about it in
recall
budget.
the
Okay, I thought we
discussion.
talked about
I
it at
think it
work
was in
session
budget. Maybe it was.
Or something.
I don't
No,
recall it.
I recall we had a discussion during the budget
To look
process,
into it.
and I think one of the things that we had talked about was, having the necessary equipment for that, and the cost of that's pretty high. So I
Okay.
think we'd have to look into it further.
I think with Phil, I know we talked about maybe a way that, squad cars could go out to the highway department and fuel up, just so we're not at the mercy of the market all the time. We can buy bulk early, cheaper, and save a few bucks, but that must have been a budget.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it was budget, cause I think I asked that of Phil, cause.
Yeah, I think we were talking about it at a pretty conceptual level. We'd have to
Yeah,
do a lot
I
more
was just
work into
curious
looking
if-
into it, so.
If he, okay, all right.
So we have it.
That's a lot of questions for me.
Any
to
other
this one.
questions? If not, do we need a resolution? Okay, I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I'll move the consent agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Schmidt, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bredesen. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And, welcome.
Hello, I'm Ann Steinhaus. I'm the Assistant Meeker County Feedlot Officer, and I come today to seek a signature for my 2021 County Feedlot Officer Annual Report. I have that included. Also, you will find a hard copy of the MPCA's year-end review letter. The soft copy you had county and not Meeker County. And so I was printing out and I got that, was able to get that rectified yesterday afternoon, but didn't have time to get soft copies back up. In my year-end review, I had an 88.88 out of 100%. It's the lowest score I've gotten. So I did lose points for, we had a construction short form issued and I've not done many in my tenure, and I missed 2 steps. I issued the permit on the 19th business day instead of the 20th. Can't be issued until at least the 20th business day, so I lost a point there. I counted the days. It has to be business days. I counted weekends. And the other thing I did
You
not.
should know government doesn't work on weekends. Just us peons work, well, not meaning the sheriff's department.
What's a weekend?
And the other thing I missed is there was a manure management checklist that I didn't know existed, so I didn't fill it out, but now I do. So kind of a learning process with COVID. Some of the trainings have been, anyway, no excuse, I messed up. But I was above the 85% minimum, so we're not on probation. There's no,
Sure.
so there's that. And so this is what our funding will be based off of for, as far as feedlot numbers for the 2022 funding period. 2023, our numbers will go down slightly. Every 4 years, it's a 4-year cycle. And we have 15 fewer feedlots in Meeker County than we did in the previous 4-year funding cycle. So, I don't know that our funding will go down because there's a general pool, and so there's an average per county. So each feedlot across the state is worth so many dollars. So if other counties lost more feedlots than we did, our funding will not be affected negatively, if that makes sense.
So are we losing feedlots? I mean, is that unusual? I don't recall that happening.
It's not unusual.
Okay.
With the dairy prices, a lot of, I'm gonna call them smaller, 300 animal unit, more traditional family farms.
They're driving those out.
Yeah.
The bigger feedlots are driving them.
Yeah, those are the ones that are going away, the 50 to 300.
Sure.
And then, again, with some of the slaughter plant issues, things have just been really weird in the last several years, so. I think other counties, Stearns County lost a third of their dairy farms.
Really?
Was one
Wow.
of the numbers I was told. Again, nothing official, just
Sure.
So would it count as a lost feedlot if they combine two feedlots into one, just to have a larger operation? That would still count as a,
yes.
No,
Would
we
then
had
be
at
one.
least one of them.
yeah,
I know we had one.
two, I think, yeah. So,
Yeah, they are.
Unless they have animals at both sites still. If there's animals at both sites, then they, but then if they start to share, the rules are kind of weird. If there are two sites more than a mile apart, but they share feed supplies and or land where the manure is spread and combine manure management plans, then they're considered combined site maybe. It's not always crystal clear. And sometimes it can't, the people who are supposed to know take weeks to decide, so.
Yes.
We had one site in Meeker County that they went back, MPCA went back and forth on for quite a while to decide whether it was one site or two.
Wow.
Well, and I appreciate that you're vulnerable, and you can get dinged, cause I know if you get up over 90%, then you gotta start leaving some mistakes for the state to find, otherwise
Yeah.
keep digging. My experience with, Minnesota inspections, but, I hear a lot of good work, or a lot of good words about you and, from the producers, so they enjoy, working with you, so, thank you.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the 2021 annual county feedlot officer report as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Schiefelbein, do I hear a second?
I will second that.
Second by Commissioner Johnson, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Thanks, Ann.
Sheriff Cruz.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Cruz County Sheriff, and I just have a matter of information for you this morning. This is my public annual activity report, and I'm just gonna go through and hit some of the highlights for you, and if you have questions, I'm here to answer them, so. Obviously, with the pandemic in 2020, we saw a decline on a lot of areas with lockdowns and things like that. In 2021, we're seeing a bounce back. Interestingly though, our 911 calls were virtually the same, our actual calls in the dispatch center were the same, but our calls for service were up 10% across the county last year, and about a 2% increase for the sheriff's office. So, more calls that are generating work versus in the past, but I think our biggest increase is probably our EMS rescue and ambulance personnel when I look through the report itself. So last year in our PSAP, we took 6,228 911 calls and a total of 27,098 calls, which is about 74 per day. Our busiest day of the week is Saturdays. Our busiest hour is 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and our busiest month is August. So, in 2021, we did bring our text to 911 in-house. We don't do that regionally anymore. We do that internally, and we're not getting a lot of calls, but that service is there for people. With our 911 system, the software we use is getting to end of life. So actually this year is the last year for that, and we'll be looking to replace that soon. And with that NG 911, we're still moving forward, and I think the ultimate goal with everybody with NG 911 is the capability to send pictures to dispatch, videos to dispatch, and then we can push those out to deputies who are out in the field. So we did see an increase across the board when it came to significant or serious crimes in the county last year or at the sheriff's office. Child abuse calls were up, assault calls were up, crim sex calls were up, domestics, burglaries, drug crimes, thefts were all up. The most significant increase were with assaults and then the crim sex conduct cases. Though we saw the biggest increases there. Drugs remain a huge issue within Meeker County. And the drug of choice in Meeker County is still methamphetamine. Methamphetamine is still king. So they seized 10 pounds of methamphetamine last year in Meeker County. Just to put that into perspective, 10 pounds of methamphetamine is enough meth for 48,000 people to get high once. So everybody in Meeker County could have got high a couple times over with what we seized last year. They seized $38,000 in cash, 9 guns, and 2 vehicles. So it was a very busy year for our task force. They made 46 felony arrests in 2021, and the thing to point out with the drug task force is they target mid to upper level dealers. So 46 mid to upper level people taken into custody on those related crimes. Fentanyl's big in the news, although we're not seeing a significant increase in Meeker County or in the area. What we are seeing though is fake oxycodone pills, which are actually just fentanyl. They're sold as oxycodone on the street, but they're containing a lot of fentanyl, and those are causing issues. We did have a couple of overdoses last year, including inmates that came in, but no reported overdose deaths with fentanyl. So it's something we'll be watching, but still methamphetamine is the choice drug in our area. Pretty much across the board, everything else was consistent, but we did see a slight decrease in criminal damage to property cases, to threat cases, and then vehicle thefts were down significantly over the previous year. Traffic stops and traffic citations were up slightly, and then our DUI arrests were up significantly. And that's an interesting stat given the fact that we were low on staffing throughout the year, and traffic stops are really a proactive function of law enforcement. So when you see those numbers are up, that means they're working hard out there. But given the fact that we had deputies who weren't there, that's a lot more work for the deputies that are out there. So that's pretty significant in and of itself. Our mental health related calls were up about 26% last year. We're seeing a lot of mental health related situations that we're dealing with on a regular basis, whether it's the call we're on or just dealing with the person in a mental health crisis, and then as well as in our jail. So we're seeing a significant number of people coming into the jail on crime related things, but also having mental health issues that we're continuing to deal with. In 2021, we were able to get back out in the community, and we did have a couple opportunities to do that, and that's highlighted in the report, specifically our National Night Out and our Shop with a Cop. So a couple good events to get out in the public and let people know who we are. And then in the jail, we did see an increase back at our jail bookings. They were up slightly in 2021 versus the year before. And our average daily population was actually 35 for 2021, which is higher than I thought it was going to be because we were still at the tail end of lockdowns and short staffing, but still a significant number. And then our jail revenue for the year was about $211,000. Court security still sees a significant number of weapons being brought into the courts. Last year there were 141 knives taken off people. We're not saying that all those knives were going to be used in nefarious situations, but court can be a very volatile situation, and people having weapons on them is very concerning. Still seeing a significant number coming in.
But you're talking about like a pocket knife that somebody might accidentally bring in? Or...
Yep, there are some of that, but there are actual like 6-inch knives and things like that, and other type of weapons that were brought in, so, yep.
Some people just don't realize they shouldn't have a pocket knife, probably.
Exactly, yep, exactly.
But if you're bringing in a 6-inch knife, that might be a little something different.
Your thigh would be bleeding, I'd think.
Yeah.
And then just the last area to touch on really quickly is our permits to carry remain higher than previous years. In 2020, they were really high. In 2021, slightly lower, but still remain high. And then budget-wise, the numbers are there, which you're all familiar with. And that's where we're at. So I would say our biggest concern still remains staffing. We're still short a couple in the jail. We're actually full staff for deputies, but because of people being out and people in training, we're still in the schedule short a few. And then dispatch is currently staffed, but we do remain short on part-time staffing in all those areas which we use to backfill our time off. But slowly but surely we're getting there, and hopefully this year we can knock on wood be back to full staff, but we're working on it. So.
You say dispatch is fully staffed now?
Full-time. We're short on part-time.
Okay. Questions?
Brian,
How about the canine unit?
Canine unit, we got the canine in 2021. Canine unit remains active in 2021. That's with one of our deputies, and he was involved with a lot of the drug cases and finding those drugs. So he is an active member of our office.
Very good. I saw that was mentioned here, and I wondered how that was going.
Yep.
How old is this dog, and how long do they usually get to participate with the force?
So we got the dog when he was just a year old, so he's probably 3 years old now. And the average life of those dogs is right in that 6 to 8 year time period. We'll see how that goes. Some are longer, some are shorter, but no, depends on how active they are too, I think.
And then they become a part of the family of the person, right?
Yeah, historically and typically, counties and cities will turn around and sell to the handler for $1 because
Right.
it's attached to that person. It's hard to take away from that person. And then they retire out their time with the handler.
Nice.
On page 10, I just found it interesting when I looked at your calls for service by cities and townships. And now, I'm only looking at District 3
Yep.
from that standpoint, but I noticed Acton Township, one of the smaller township I have, had the most calls for service. You know, even Collinwood and Greenleaf are far more populated, yet less calls for service. Is that a demographic or?
You know, we didn't really dig into why. I know that in the Grove City area, we were really active this year. I can't put a.
Okay.
a
I was
specific
gonna email you yesterday, and I apologize for springing this on you, and I got busy and didn't do it, but.
And we've seen, so it really depends, we've seen numbers fluctuate throughout townships, and over the years, and sometimes you can explain it because you get a couple criminals move into an area and they can generate a lot of calls. I don't know in this particular situation. I do know south of Grove City, we've been very active along the lake there, and that might explain some of those numbers.
Yeah, because if you look just a little bit south of them is Danielson Township and very few. So when you say calls for service, that's a call not from an accident or an ambulance call. This is different, this is an actual,
No, this would be all calls. So a call for service is actually, it generates a response by law enforcement. So we get a lot of calls on dispatch that don't generate a response or don't generate paperwork or call for services that generates somebody's gonna respond and deal with something.
Okay.
So this would include, medical as well as.
Okay.
So a call for service to Eden Valley Rescue that does not involve law enforcement is not logged as a sheriff's department. CFS.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Those are logged here, under the page 11 under their
Separated.
calls, and then these are just the total calls, in those areas.
thank you.
Has the personnel committee, have you guys talked about I always forget his name.
The CSO.
Yeah. Mike?
No, we haven't met yet. Community
Okay.
paramedic, yeah, no, we have not met, no.
Any other questions?
I thought it was nicely put together. It
always a
was,
good
it
report.
was interesting reading too.
And this is a public document.
Yeah, public document available on our website, and if people have questions or you have questions, certainly reach out to me, but this is just an effort on our part to make sure that people know what's going on in the county and know what we're dealing with, and, we can, adjust accordingly when we need to, so.
Very good idea.
Paul, to your point too, just in our district, how do I wanna say this? There's certain areas, the minute the call goes out that way, you know it's gonna be a interesting call, and it's not, population has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it truly is amazing how
It's
one or two people
strange,
can really drive up calls in an area. Yeah,
Because you might have repeat offenders and domestics, et cetera,
Yep.
et cetera. yeah.
Yep.
Generational,
Small town,
Problems. I
everybody
mean,
knows
it's-
everybody.
exactly. So,
Okay.
Great.
Any other questions? Thank you, Brian.
yeah, thank you.
Greg Schultz, Land Use Records Director.
Morning, Greg Schultz, Land Use Director. This morning I got 8 items for the board. First item on the agenda is the Cheryl Swanson McCarthy Gravel IUP for a new aggregate mining pit. What this is a continuation from the Marsh Pit to the east. This is a continuation from the Keekly Pit to the east of that one. So this one, when the Marsh Pit is done, they're the arrow's gonna keep going across the property line into the Swanson property. So this is a new IUP for this gravel operations.
So we've done business with this gravel company before though, haven't we?
McCarthy,
Yeah. And he's been good about paying the proper gravel tax?
as far as I know, yeah.
I'm gonna ask it,
Gravel,
guys. I
filling
mean,
gravel for 43
So-
years he's had.
So I have a question. So when you call it the Marsh site, that's the owner of the pit?
Yes, that's the owner of the
And
property.
so McCarthy leases that from them?
Yep.
And then he tracks what comes out of there and pays them? And that's all on just honesty, obviously.
Yeah. The auditor, however he reports it at the
So
end of
he
the year.
reports whatever he pays on to them. However their lease is, they lease by so much, I have no idea. I'm just curious how it works.
I don't,
In this pit, he figured he's gonna be 20,000 cubic yards for the 6 years.
So then he
This one.
pays whoever owns that for 20,000,
Or however,
then he pays gravel
I don't know if it's
tax.
by the
as
yard,
a, probably, usually as a,
I'm not sure.
by the yard, you pay by the yard.
Okay, interesting. Okay,
Yeah, I don't see those contracts.
I just wasn't sure how it worked. I never been.
It's usually a few bucks a yard and then that's kinda all the honor system.
That's what I was,
I mean,
same way when we collect
Landowner,
gravel
unless you're gonna
tax.
sit out there and count trucks, so.
So if I owned it, I'd have some
Thousand
kid
other
out there
things
counting
to do
everything
other
that
than-
came out.
Count them trucks.
And then who decides what grade it is, the gravel? Is it a class 1, class, is that up to, like, Jim, the truck driver, or is that up
I
to
think
the
it's up to the
pit
buyer.
owner?
I imagine it's up to the engineering firm that's buying it for the roads or whatever they're doing. They test
you're
it out to
bringing
see
them-
what it's at.
If they want class 5 and you're bringing the wrong class, if they don't think it's up to par,
They'll
tell you
let you
quit
know.
bringing that crap, we'll go somewhere else, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the classification's all based on the size of the gravel. And so if you're bringing the wrong size of gravel, the buyer is gonna recognize that, and they should be testing it, and so, it's like any product, right? You know, if you expect beef to show up and it's chicken, well, you're gonna be quite surprised.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. I'm disappointed.
Well, and
So if this is a new pit, is that what you're saying? This is a new pit, so how does that, what's the inspection for that, or what's that?
That inspection will be, one at the 3-year mark, and one at the end as well.
So then they go out, they have to renew every 3 years?
36.
Does anybody ever go to make sure there isn't couches and tires and,
Paul Holmgren, our enforcement guy, checks
does
them
that?
out every year, he goes out.
and
every
then
summer.
they get a letter and have to clean it up, or there's a,
Usually the owners will call us and say that people have been illegal dumping in my pit, and then we'll get the word up to try to keep.
then
an eye on
we
things,
charge them or whatever for picking it up?
Yeah.
so how are the roads around the new pit? I mean, the township isn't having any issues with if you take, what's the average dumper haul now, 10 yards?
belly dump was probably closer to 18. I would say.
18, so you divide that out
24,
by
18.
20,000. You know, you're gonna have a lot of rumbling across those roads over the next few years. I was just curious if they had weighed in anything about their
Sure,
roads.
it's just a continuation, so it probably doesn't really matter too much, cause they've been doing it from Marsh.
And part of our conditions are that they have to participate in the haul road maintenance at the township, would require that.
Yeah, the township, they know where work is being done, or, you know, where gravel's being pulled out. They, either they've upgraded the road already to accommodate the site, cause they get a little kickback to, you know, I mean, they have a vested interest. Person buying the gravel, they don't put quality gravel on that road they're building, it's not gonna pass inspection, and then the county or whoever is gonna reject it, and then they're gonna have to go over budget and take it out of their own pocket. So there's a vested interest on multiple parties in the circle to produce a quality product and build a quality road and upgrade the road servicing areas and stuff.
I've had a couple of phone calls from folks, and the only issue, and I visited with Greg about this, is, of course, the maintenance of the roads, and hopefully all parties involved work together to maintain, because it gets to be washboard, how many times you have a semi going over that same spot, and dust control. Those were the two issues that I hear about, and these were up in Forest City Township, but I'm just a couple of questions about that, and we addressed that, right?
And dust control is part of the conditions as well. It's been implemented on the gravel haul roads.
I heard Subarus are really bad in potholes.
They're
That's what I
terrible.
I
I think it's
What
got something to
happens
do
when
with
you
the
buy-
driver though, you know?
Buy foreign stuff.
Yeah, I know, you know.
Spinning my tires around and yeah, intersect. Okay.
Oh, you're doing donuts out there?
We wanna go
I
through,
just
do we need to
quality of
vote
the
on
car.
each of these separately, or can we,
You could take them all
cause
as
they're all gravel
omnibus.
connected,
They're
but
all pretty
first-
much McCarthy, I think.
Yeah.
That's
Should
gravel
we
ones,
go-
aren't they?
First three are McCarthy.
should we go do McCarthy first here?
I was
Okay.
about to move, so whatever
Okay.
you wanna do.
Whatever you
We
would
better
like.
move forward is what we
Okay,
need
well,
to
let's
do.
move forward.
Yeah.
So you're gonna
Why don't
take A, B, C, and D as one?
That's what I think, it's all
Okay.
McCarthy, so.
Let's do that. Next,
Next one is the Keekly site, which is on the other end of the property, on the other side, the east side of the marsh pit. This has been a site that has been in existence since 1995, started mining out of this. He's estimating that it's only gonna take about 5,000 cubic yards a year out of this pit. It's a small pit. It's just the 2.5 acres on the east side of the big marsh pit there, as you see. This will be for 6 years as well.
Okay.
Whenever I see these, as we get a lot of them, I always look at the comment on the front page where it says the planning commission voted, and if it's a 6-0, it doesn't seem then as though there's any neighbors or, you know, local folks that have an issue with it.
Having been on the planning commission, I will tell you that if we didn't go on the inspection, because one of the planning commission goes on each inspection along with the chair and Greg, we really do rely on the two folks that were out there to visually see it. And if they are recommending it, you know, we feel very comfortable about passing it at that point.
And on these McCarthy sites, the asphalt, it's sent a letter, all three of them pertaining to all three of them. As you had mentioning dust control and road maintenance if need be. That's what
no,
this
that's usually a township level decision, dust
Talk
control.
to the
Yeah.
fellows on the township board.
Should I move on to the next one?
Sure.
Okay, the next one will be Marsh property. And that's been in operation since 1995 as well. IUPs issued in 04, 09, and last 15. This one here plans on taking 5,000 cubic yards a year out of. It's not a heavily used pit, but it'll be enough to, for what Mr. McCarthy has plans for.
Okay,
And he plans on running out of this one within the 6 years, that's why he's expanding over to the Swanson property. So, that's the plan. And they have to maintain 500 feet separation from the property to the south. So that's one of the things where they can't keep creeping forward to the south towards the road, so. that's that. The next one is the loft pit. This is McCarthy's and the loft. This one here is just to the west of actually the turkey farms at the flume. This one we couldn't get to because it's all field roads to get back to. He plans on taking 5,000 cubic yards out of this per year as well. But it's a farm field road to get back to it. Go through the property. It's very remote, right along the river. They have to maintain 300 feet setback from the river. That's part of the shoreline ordinance, and that's part of the conditions as well. You can't creep.
5,000 yards isn't a lot, is it?
1,000 dump trucks, tandem.
Well, it's more than I thought then.
So 500 bellies or,
Yeah.
you know, it's all.
It's not.
Not a
Cause
lot.
others are
Not
talking
in the
about
big-
25,000 and.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where's the field road on that?
yeah.
Field road goes to the field road in the very southwest corner, the grove there.
Is that
They gotta drive
coming
through
down
that
there?
to go get back.
Right through there.
Is this an
Nothing
old
on
site too,
before.
Greg?
What's that?
This an old site too? I mean, this.
This one is newer.
Okay,
This one has been in existence since,
But it's,
but they've,
It's-
it's been used for years, cause I can remember as a kid driving snowmobile through there, it was there. But it actually hasn't been permitted since 15. 15 is the first
but
permit.
it's existing.
Yeah, it's been around for a
nothing
long
we've
time.
talked about, except for that first one, is a new existing, new thing, but
Expansion.
that one's right next to it.
Expansion.
Right.
That's a continuation.
Yeah,
Okay, any other questions? I think we can vote on those McCarthy ones if any, unless somebody else has questions. Look for a motion to approve the McCarthy.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the interim use permits for items A, B, C, and D for McCarthy gravel.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Schmidt. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Schiefelbein. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On
Next
to
that
E.
I have is a Dunnick leased property for Leonard and Becky Wendorf. This is down in Cedar Mills Township, section 25, township 117, range 31. This one has been in existence since 95 as well, at least permitted since 95 as well. And where you see that arrow there, that's where they're gonna be expanding to the west, that direction towards the arrow. To the north and to the north of that wetland there, water pond has been, it's been previously mined, now they're gonna expand to the west. And this one here, they're planning on taking out an estimated 325,000 cubic yards in the next 6 years.
What's your 5,000? Yeah.
This will be
Dunnick's-
pretty heavily used in the next
Yeah.
6 years.
And Dunnick's usually maintain
Yeah, they're
a very nice
Usually
pit.
very clean sites.
Okay,
And they keep to their, I did have one caller to the west of the property that wanted me to read to the board, and I read to the board and let Dunnick's know. Dunnick's were not at this hearing, he actually called me the next day and apologized for not making it to the meeting. He forgot about it, but,
they were complaining about the dust or the noise
Dust,
or the,
not so much, yeah, Dustin Road, the main thing he wanted to know is he wanted them to know that he has young children on the property. And they could be on the gravel road, and he wants all the drivers to know that there could be children close by, so
Sure.
safety reasons for them. So he called in for that, let the Dunnicks know that. There's children on that 120th Street, just down, about half mile down the road from where they come on that property.
So he was just more informing,
Yeah, informing them.
not objecting, just saying, hey, B. Yeah,
Informing, hey,
okay.
I got kids here that I want you to be aware.
Does the county put up signage? Children at play, caution, I've seen those in the neighborhood.
It's usually the townships.
Yeah, that would be
The
the township's
township will do that.
it might be a good idea to think about for that.
It's just a little reminder.
Yeah.
Usually the owner, if they have kids, will contact the township and lobby to put one up. Or
Oh.
sometimes we've cost share before with
Okay.
certain signs, like I know for sure, but usually I think it's sometimes the owner's almost,
Is it just a
Responsibility
township
to-
decision then?
yeah, but sometimes if the
Depends
owner,
on whose road it is too.
yeah.
Usually, you know, roadway issues are, if it's a
Well, this would be a
township
gravel
road.
road,
Is it a
Township
township?
road.
Yeah, 120th
it'd
is
be
the township.
township,
Township road, yeah.
so that would be a township issue then.
Yeah.
Like if the property, the person, parent was really, they could actually fund the cost of the sign themselves too,
Oh,
you know.
do that.
and
Kinda
then-
like the dust control issue too, it's,
Yeah.
the township will do some,
Sure.
maybe you do some, you know what I mean, to.
And they'll last the
aid.
lifetime of the kids and then you just rip it out,
Right.
you know?
Or keep having kids. Okay, so, do we wanna do E
Too
and
many
F?
Schiefelbein families around.
Yeah,
So,
we don't do those signs, we just,
can I get a motion for the
Assumption.
IUP for the Dunnick's, Wendroff property?
Or do you wanna do D,
Let's
E and
do
F
F.
Do you
together?
wanna do?
Let's do F at
E
this,
and F
let's do
together.
that, let's move on to F, and we can do it once, by the time we talk about it, it would have been quick.
This next one is a Dunning script, it's an asphalt plant renewal location for asphalt plus, and this is north of Dassel Township, or section 4, Township 119, range 29, Dassel Township. North on Highway 15, this has been in existence, again, so this one's been in existence since '03 with the asphalt plant part of it. It's been a gravel pit for that. So what they do is, and this is just a 3-year permit, or asphalt plant, IUPs are just for 3 years. So this will expire in 25. Yes.
Okay,
So it was permitted in '03, 2012, 2016, and again in '19 as an asphalt plant.
Madam Chair, move to approve the IUP applications from Dunning E and F.
motion by Commissioner Johnson, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bredesen, any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries.
Next item I have is a rezone of preliminary plats for Meeker property for development of Swan Lake State Second Edition. Includes parcel 070986000 and 070039000. This is gonna take 2 existing lots, you see the one with the arrow and then the one that's highlighted. Those 2 existing lots, he's gonna reconfigure into 2 different areas. Lot 1 will be 6.14 acres, lot 2 will be 4.71 acres. They need to be the lot 0709886 currently is already R1. We have to rezone 070390002 from A1 to R1. That'll be the first item.
So there's gonna be 2 homes built there, I'm assuming, or what?
They're already, yeah.
Are there already?
Necessarily. Apparently the owner of 07, the one to the, that has a house on to the east of the property, just to the east of that arrow there, is gonna buy half of it. Half of it.
Just to
He'll
add.
buy 1 lot.
So,
Then
Greg,
he's
they
gonna
would buy,
combine it to the
I'm-
other lot.
so Greg, to be clear, the intent, the thought is that they would buy lot 2 here.
Yes.
So this lot here would then be expanded into this whole area.
Okay, so they're expanding a current
Yes.
property.
Then there'll be 1 lot available for sale.
There would be this
Western
lot.
That big lot there, 6.14 acres.
Where's the 30 cattle at?
It's to the west, quite a ways,
Quite a ways.
yeah. We did have one objection to it, and it was just to Kilisky, who owns the property. Immediately to the west, 0723, and he also owns those 2 lots there, and those 2 are already R1 properties, and he owns the property to the north there, right there, and that's what he was thinking on bringing cattle up into. But our feedlot ordinance states that you can't have a feedlot within 1,000 feet of R1 or R2 zone properties. And that 1,000-foot separation goes all the way to the north beyond his northern boundary of his property, to the next property up in there is where it goes, so. What he was intending and what he thought, with this property going from R1 would handcuff him on expanding a feedlot up into that area. But in reality, there's been R1 property zone since 2002 that have already handcuffed him to what he wants to do.
So he's already in violation, he just didn't know it.
He hasn't brought cattle, he's just free ranged them, he hasn't, to be a feedlot, you have to have a building there, you have to have a common area where you feed them all the time.
So-
He's just free ranged them. He
I'm-
wanted to put a
I'm-
building up and he wanted to put, like a hay.
I wanna go on record and apologize to Justin, I was just kidding, but.
Too late.
Yeah.
It's on there for everybody. So before, there was nothing on the 1 lot, is that what,
Exactly,
'cause, okay,
nothing on either lot.
nothing on either lot, so half of 1 lot's gonna be owned by a existing
Existing
owner.
residents.
Gonna be attacked.
And then where are the cattle?
West,
Right here.
right there, free ranges them up in
That's gotta be beyond that, yeah, that's field there, the way that looks.
Well, that's I'm assuming it's a pasture, right?
Yeah,
There's no
we
rules
looked
on
up there, we
pastures.
drove by, and we didn't see any up there, so I don't know if he just brings them in the summertime or once in a while.
So it's just a
They're not up
pasture.
there.
I'm assuming
not
it's a
winter, yeah.
They're
pasture.
not there now.
Yeah, you just can't put a building
Yeah,
that you're gonna
open-
house. You can pasture wherever,
Right up to the R1 and R2.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just can't
Okay.
put a building
right?
or a common feed area. in the
1,000
wintertime.
feet.
Because what I've found over the years is the more people that build around cattle, then we start getting complaints about smell and I don't want them then. So then you go chicken or they, who was, and I'm like, they were there first, but, so that's not gonna become an issue.
There's already R1 properties around the whole perimeter since 2002 in that whole area.
Okay.
Answer, okay, as long as we're on this issue then. But you can build a residence within 1,000 feet of a feedlot that's existing. Because you already know that it smells and that it's.
So then don't bother
So
to
the-
come back and
the-
complain.
yeah,
That's
the
what always
ordinance-
the argument is.
They
Yeah,
do,
the
though,
ordinance works both ways, it's
Yep.
protect one and the other, you know.
Yes.
People
They-
tend to
They were
think
there
it only,
first.
well, people tend to think it only is helping them, and it's like, no, the ordinance is designed to
Okay.
benefit both parties, protect them and.
Just for curiosity reasons, since we're on this subject, if someone goes and sells that and you're within 1,000 feet of the feedlot that's already existing, that can be, was already up, do those realtors have to disclose that to the possible new owners, that there is a feedlot in that area?
I doubt
I
it.
don't
Not that
think so.
I'm aware of.
I was just curious, otherwise sometimes that,
I know what you mean.
yeah.
They really are up on their agriculture rules.
That's been a discussion.
Well, that would
Andy,
be-
for a while, because that's what they don't,
And everything.
and
lot
then
of
all
times
of a
they
sudden.
don't.
there's
Yeah,
an
I know,
issue.
and then what happens is
Right.
that if you own a feedlot, you know,
You know,
Then you're-
it isn't,
you're the bad guy.
the realtor doesn't fill out the disclosure forms, it's the homeowner.
There's nothing on a.
And
I
there's
know this is
nothing
off
on there.
subject, I was just
Uh-uh.
curious, is this some
And actually, I believe the
thing?
ordinance on that states that if there's an existing feedlot, you wanna build within 1,000 yards, you either have to get a variance from that feedlot owner, or you have to get a waiver. Actually, the owner would have to get a variance, cause we just did that with a poultry operation a couple of years ago, somebody wanted to build within 1,000 feet of that. And they either had to get a waiver from the feedlot owner, or they had to go through the variance process, that's how it reads. Get within 1,000 feet of existing feedlot. So
And
there's some
most-
hoops that property owner in that
I've got
house
one, we
wants
talked
to jump through.
one too, and
Jump through.
None of that applies to here. He just said cattle, and he was thinking of putting a feedlot up, and he didn't realize that you can't do that anyway.
Exactly.
But you can pasture
and it was
wherever you're
already-
right up,
Pasture right up to the property.
right up to the property.
Okay, good.
Hope the fences are good.
Yeah, there you go.
You hear about it anyway.
All right, so we're looking for a motion unless somebody's got further thing.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning and preliminary plat of the Meeker Division of Swan Lake Second Edition.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Schmidt, do I hear a second?
Is that a double motion there?
Double motion, one for rezone and then
Oh.
for the preliminary plat.
We have to take them individually.
We can combine them,
Oh,
can't we?
Well, first we're moving
That's what
to
I
approve
said.
the rezoning app. Then you're doing,
Very plat
Right.
and rezoning.
is that enough, or do we have to do separate motions? We're good?
No, we're good.
Okay.
That'll work.
Second by Commissioner, any more discussion? All in favor?
Please no.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We
Aye.
talked that one to death.
Yeah.
Motion carried.
And then on this next item, this discussion of the transfer station operation, I'm gonna give a brief overview of the proposal that was given to us and was sent to the board via email, and then I'll turn it back over to Greg to go from there. Well, broadly.
I need to
Looked
be
more like a
quiet
threat
today.
to me.
Yeah, exactly.
So right now, out at our landfill, we have two operations that go on out there. We have the demolition landfill and we have the transfer station. The demolition landfill is owned and operated by the county, and that is where people who have, tearing down a house, doing a renovation, take material and they can deposit it there. The transfer station is owned by the county, operated by Endurance Environmental, and that's for mixed solid waste. So residential garbage, commercial garbage gets dropped off there. It then gets loaded into semis and hauled off to a mixed solid waste landfill and deposited into the ground. Endurance Environmental also provides assistance with the demolition landfill, provided administrative support. They receive material as it comes in. They collect fees, all those sorts of things. Endurance Environmental has been working out there. Formerly, they were KRD Trucking, and prior to that, they were Stockman's Transfer for over 20 years. They've been. Right now, the way that they are paid is they receive an operating fee of $47,500 per year, paid on a quarterly basis. They also collect $20 per ton of garbage that is hauled from the transfer station to the landfill. They also collect the revenue for any tires or electronics that are recycled on the site, which is about $40,000 a year. And then they get $1 per yard of the construction demo debris that gets deposited, which is about $25,000. That's to cover their administrative expense. So about $432,500 per year. Endurance had a meeting with Greg Brent and I last week, and they have proposed to change the relationship that they have with the county. They're proposing to continue to accept garbage at the transfer station, continue to haul that garbage from the transfer station to the landfill, and collect revenue for garbage and demolition debris. However, they would no longer accept cash or checks as forms of payment. They would no longer hold the accounts with haulers or Spruce Ridge, which is the mixed solid waste landfill. So the county would have to have those accounts. We would actually physically accept the money then, even though their person is the person who's swiping the credit card out there. It would go into our accounts, and we would be responsible to pay to the different vendors. And then they've stated that they want the change in this contract in place by the end of the month, or they would shut down their operation. The other big change, though, is how they want to be paid. They don't want those variable revenue streams anymore for the tires, electronics, and construction demo debris. They want it all paid out in a lump sum operating fee at $30,000 per month. So $360,000 a year, a modest increase to the garbage hauling cost to $21 a ton. And we would then, as the county, retain all of the revenue for the tires, electronics, and construction demo debris. So the net difference, including those items that come as a positive to the county, is just shy of $200,000 per year, or it's about a 46% increase. So the county has some options. What we could do, we could agree to their proposed contract amendment long term. We could conduct a request for proposals for someone to operate the transfer station, go out to the market and see if we can get a better price, or if Endurance would be willing to sharpen their pencil a bit. While we do that, we could agree to their proposed contract amendment in the short term, or we could close the transfer station while that effort occurs. As we've discussed, the county is also pursuing to explore selling the landfill and the transfer station. So we could make the decision to just close the transfer station now and continue through that process, and then the new owner may look to open it back up. If it is closed, it's going to impact a couple of other things that go on out there. First, it impacts our ability to accept demolition debris, because they do provide that administrative support. So we would have to have someone on site when the demo landfill is open to be able to accept that material. And we also know that we don't have a requirement that residents have curbside collection in the county. So there are people who collect material in a trailer and then take it out to the transfer station and pay for it to have it disposed. Well, those folks would have to find somewhere else to take it. And we're concerned that could lead to more fly dumping either at the site or elsewhere in the county. So those are some of the challenges that come along with that. If we were to accept the contract amendment long term, there is, of course, greater cost that goes to the county. So we need to have some additional revenue that comes in to cover that cost. So the tipping fees, which is what the haulers pay or anyone pays to dump the garbage out there, would have to be increased. We're still refining the number, but it's estimated to be about $20 per ton that it would have to go up. Alternatively, we do have fund balance in the solid waste fund that could be used to offset some of this cost. At the end of 2021, there was about $750,000 in fund balance in that account. If there is a desire to use that fund balance to offset this cost, one of the things we do have to dig into a little bit deeper is how much of that money is SCORE dollars, which is the state recycling grant, because I don't know if we could be able to use that to offset the cost of getting rid of garbage. So, 'cause it's intended to be for recycling purposes. So, as we dig deeper into all of this, one of the things that when we met with Endurance's representative last week, they're adamant about is we don't have a contract. Well, we disagree. We do have a contract that was signed with a previous company that has since become Endurance back in 1998, which requires a 60-day written termination notice. So our intent would be, if there's the desire from the county board, that we would work with the county attorney to send them a sternly worded letter requiring or stating that we want them to at least adhere to that requirement. But we have to think beyond that 60 days. So what direction would we like to go from here? Should we accept the proposed contract amendment? We don't have anything in writing yet. We've requested that, but we know verbally what it is that they're going to ask from us, which is why we're here talking about it now. If we do accept that, should we increase the tipping fees or use fund balance to cover the additional costs? And if not, should we conduct an RFP for these services, or should we have the transfer station close? So with that,
What is the tipping fee right now?
I believe it's $68 for licensed haulers, $74 for non-licensed haulers. I'm sorry, in county, out of county. Non-licensed haulers, I think it's like 76, 78, something. 76? Okay.
74 and 76.
So,
Didn't we just recently?
No, that was the demolition.
Just a demo.
Oh,
That was the
okay.
demo.
Okay.
so what brought this on?
They claim that they are losing money.
Is
out
it
there.
because we were closed down? Because,
No.
I have never heard, Stockman's has always been a bit of an issue with the previous administrator, but they always work through it, but this is a bit of a shakedown. So,
Word. Good word.
yes. So, they're obviously upset about something.
So, Brent can talk about this a little bit more. They had come and talked to Brent a couple months ago initially and brought this idea forward of wanting to relook at the contract. And we told them, okay, well, give us something in writing that says what it is you're looking for. And then he came forward and said, well, this is it. You accept my terms or we're
So
walking away.
when we're closed down out there, what are they losing?
The dollar per yard of the
Yeah,
construction demo.
so I'm sure that didn't help anything.
It didn't help, but as you can
Which, by the way, I've gotten a lot of phone calls. I hope we don't continue to be in that position.
But as you can see, it's less than 10% of the overall total over the course of the year, and the time period that the demo landfill has been closed has been during the slow time period.
Right.
Right, they probably did not receive like around $2,000.
But now that it's no longer a slow time, are we open?
We're gonna be open on Wednesdays and Fridays, and then hopefully on May 1st, then we'll be open on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays.
And this is because of staffing issues?
And wasn't it, we were trying to fix equipment, we couldn't get parts?
We got things
We
fixed,
got it up and going.
and now
The
we have,
equipment is back up.
we have hired someone to be out there, but they have a full-time job right now, so right now they are working after their full-time job, and they plan on hiring in May, so that they can put more effort out there to get things cleaned up and start accepting materials.
It's kind of a tough time to be doing that. People are starting to do spring work and demolition.
So this new contract, did I see someplace in there where you said long-term? They want a long-term contract?
We haven't talked about term of a contract. I think that they're under the impression that if we do sell to a new owner, that they're gonna still be there, they'll be the operator going for the new owner. So, no, we didn't talk about, well, we're gonna lock into a 5-year deal or anything like that. It was just long-term, meaning beyond the next 30 days or 60 days.
So if we entered into a contract now and we went for an RFP, we would certainly have an unwind clause or an out clause or something that could happen.
Yeah. I mean, we know that this is the direction that we're going, so we would write that into any.
So they're saying I mean, we're not gonna have a decision by the end of, if we wanna keep it open, we have to do what they want right now.
That's what they're saying. Like I said, we still intend, if through the blessing of the board, to pursue the route of having the attorney send them a letter stating that they need to uphold their end of the contract, which buys us a little bit more time as long as they're doing that. They could also walk away and now they're in breach of the contract. Then we need to talk about what ramifications we want to pursue from that.
So you wanna extend, you're gonna say we need 60 days, not 30, correct?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't even give us 30. They haven't given us any written notice at all.
Weeks, maybe.
And then you're gonna find out how much that money can be used towards covering the difference in the contract till we get an RF. I mean, maybe this is a service we shouldn't be doing, I don't know,
Well,
that's a decision we have to decide, obviously, but.
Well, I've been thinking about this, and I have a feeling that they got, because it hasn't been no secret that we've had some discussions on changing the way things operate out there. I have a feeling that, you know, them getting wind that we may privatize this means that they wanna make a deal with us and soon before it becomes privatized, because then they're, you know, they have leverage coming in the door that this is what the county was paying us.
Well, that
Cause
could be,
nobody comes in with an increase of $250,000 in 10 days to make up your mind to do it.
well, that's just ridiculous.
That's the short, I mean,
That's the shakedown.
the word extortion is the one that I was gonna use, and I don't bite on that too quickly, so, I think,
Go ahead, Ben.
One thing I think is that may have changed this too is the company that was changed from KRD to Endurance. They are typically just a hauling, all they do is haul. So this is not their normal type of operations as to having people out there. Typically, all they do is haul. Well, they don't want anything to do with having someone on staff to run the books and they don't want any liability of someone having an account there and skipping out on $40,000 that they hauled. Well, now they're out $40,000, you know, that they accepted demo and now they gotta take it off.
How long's Endurance been there, Brent?
A year and
I believe since it changed over last November.
It
it's
was,
the same.
Yeah,
mean,
no, I
it's-
know,
it's
but
been
it's a
on-
different, it's a parent
Name, but
company, but
Right,
it's,
so it was a buyout, it was pretty much the same thing, same people running it, but then it's this name and these different.
And
people.
before KRD, it was,
It was Stockman.
Stockman's, which is the same guy, but the
The same
different,
person in.
There's
the
same
always-
operated, but it's different companies own them.
right.
there's always been a little discussion every couple of years about this kind of thing. Corey can probably remember, but not to this, this is frankly ridiculous, so.
So, do we have any teeth in that agreement with the 60 days? I mean, okay, so we have an agreement that says you gotta give us 60 days notice, but if they walk away, is there any penalty? Is there any teeth to this, or?
I mean, we can always take them to court. Seek an injunction that they need to provide us that 60 days.
But I think we have to try to keep some services open for our citizens, that's my concern, right?
I think they realize that they actually can't just pull out at the end of the month. I think they know that they have to give us the 60 days. From talking to them, or talking to Rick, he understands. He's kind of coming like, okay, this is it, but in the back of his mind, he knows that they have to give us more time than the end of.
If it's my gut is to say, hey, you send them the letter, get the 60 days, do an RFP as quick as possible, and go from there. And hopefully we have something by 60 days with someone else that's a better deal and move on.
And in the meantime, maybe find out how much of that $750,000 we can use to cover whatever we have to cover here, right? Because we don't know.
Right.
And then also, I think we have to make a decision as a board if this is a business we wanna stay in or if we wanna just and it may be time to. And my other question, kind of off, you mentioned that we don't have rural service requirements for people who live in the country, so to speak. How do you get that?
You can enact an ordinance to make people.
I'm not saying we should, I'm just curious, cause I can,
Wright County doesn't have an ordinance on making it mandatory, but they make it very difficult for people to store garbage on their.
is it a township decision or it's a county
Right.
decision?
McLeod County is the same way. Now they, and they actually charge every citizen, McLeod and Wright and Candy, so much on their tax statements each year for garbage service.
Well, that's a discussion for another day, but I know sometimes you go in rural areas and they have their, dumpsters out or their containers out. So,
So if, I think the big question, so I'm hearing we wanna send a letter to them.
yes,
Absolutely.
The question then is, okay, so that 60 days is up, do we want to have had pursued an RFP process to check the market? Or do we want to, work with them to try and negotiate a better contract contract terms, or, accept their contract terms? So do we want to continue to work with Endurance knowing that we're gonna pursue this exploration of selling the property? Or do we wanna do an RFP?
well, I'm assuming this is their first offer, certainly not their final offer, I mean, goodness gracious, do you think, Commissioner Johnson, what do you
Well,
think?
one number that jumps out at me, I don't know what each load that goes out, what's in it, but I just did some math at $320,000 and 20 tons of load, and I believe most of them loads go to Biscay. Biscay is 30 miles away, so if 20 tons of load at $320,000, and you do the math backwards, comes to 800 loads, and they're getting about $400 a load to drive 30 miles.
Sounds like a business you should buy, you got it
Yeah.
figured out quickly,
Well,
that
I
sounds
mean,
like a lot of
it's-
money.
That's a lot per trip.
Yeah.
I
So-
mean,
Yeah.
that's,
I agree with you, but I think we can discuss that here, but I think we have to, what my concern is the immediate future, what's gonna happen out there.
oh, exactly.
Right, so what would, as administrator, what would you recommend?
I think that a good route for us to go, I think if we try and negotiate with them, one of the challenges that we have is, we don't know what the rest of the market is gonna show.
Right,
And by working through it with them, we have time against us. Even if we have 60 days is a really tight turnaround to be able to go and get proposals.
right,
So I think if the desire is that we want to, not accept what that it is that they're offering, then we do an RFP in the short term.
And I know I'm just being technical here, but when did the clock start ticking in the 60 days? Because they really haven't given us
It hasn't
official
started.
notice.
It has-
It has not.
They
Right.
have to give us something in writing before
Yes.
that.
and I'm sure they know that, I mean, they must, nobody can just call and say in 2 weeks, that's not, is it?
No, it's not.
Seems like, I would think so.
Think so.
Now, they claim we don't have a contract with them, but if they walk away, there is a contract somewhere. I mean, we wouldn't be in business with them without some sort of a contract, and is that contract for so many years?
So the contract was with Stockman Loading. We then, back in 1998, we did an amendment to the contract in 2002. We did a subsequent amendment in 2019.
Okay.
A subsequent amendment was with KRD, which was the company that purchased Stockman Loading. KRD has now become Endurance Environmental.
Okay.
So we continue to work under the terms of that contract. We hold up our end of the bargain on the end of the terms. They largely hold up their end of the bargain based on those terms. And so that's through my conversation with our county attorney. We've come to the conclusion that we have a contract with them and that contract holds, so.
Are there other, does this endurance company run other landfills? Are there other places, you had said that we would probably go out and seek bids from other?
So,
I'm in the
Management
shipping
companies?
business, and in trucking business, I don't know if they run any other landfills, it almost sounds like they don't.
I think they just
They
haul.
can just do shipping and hauling, mix solid waste.
Okay.
So I think this is unique to them.
Is there other companies that do this, that you're aware of?
I'm only aware of ones that wanna buy it.
Well, there you go, that's part of the answer.
I think you have to open the door to allow others to, so at least we know where we stand.
I agree.
I think the RFP gives you
Yeah.
the leverage that we need, period. And then obviously you keep negotiating with them, but RFP does negotiate with them that way.
They're allowed to
Yeah,
put in a bid or two.
but that's,
And let's face facts, in any negotiation, where do you start? You start up here knowing you're not
course.
probably gonna get
Well, and the
that,
other
so
piece is perhaps they don't wanna do it anymore and this is the way out.
Perhaps.
it's,
You know, let's just put the number high
Some of the
enough that they're
phones
gonna
they've got is
go.
that They're losing money so much each month that they don't wanna be part of it. It's a little bit of the tone.
So
Yeah.
you will get a hold of them. The attorney will look at the we have a contract.
Yep.
We will look into an RFP.
Mhm.
And I still have curiosity about that $750,000, how that can be used.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, as we do the RFP process and we know what that cost is gonna be afterwards, then we need to look at our revenue flow to determine what adjustments do we need to make and can we use any of that fund balance for that, so.
We're not expensive on our, because the phone calls that I've gotten is it cost me twice as much to go to Spruce Ridge with my stuff. So I mean, that's,
And what I hear
We're
is,
low.
and it isn't, I don't even hear about it's the inconvenience that
yeah,
I'm hearing about.
yeah.
You know, people are used to having, and I think we should. I think the question is, who should be operating it? I'm not sure it should be us, so.
And I was on AMC there's a lot of score dollar, they're changing the funding for the whole score mechanism too, so it'll be, if we would privatize it, are we eligible for, cause we gotta do some work
You
yet.
still would have to do the score.
So the
recycling,
score
that
is
kind of-
still ours?
That's still
Right.
ours, that would still be
That's still
ours.
ours.
Okay,
So if we
that's
want
what I-
those funds,
I
we
want-
will
Yeah,
be
the-
part of that. But then too, so then it kinda changes too. So if we're going to do the hauling and collecting the money, the revenues kinda change from that too, because the revenues from mixed solid waste can be used for certain things too. So if you're having revenues from, so if you increase, unless it's just breaking even, depending on how you have your tip fees, but there's only certain things that those revenues from hauling the garbage can go to. You can't use it for, it can only go back into like recycling or score things.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's just, that was something I got talked about the other day, so I made some notes on it.
Do you need a
Our-
motion for any of this, or, cause we're kinda getting,
I mean, you can make a motion, otherwise I have the consensus of the board.
is that
We have
guidance
good-
all right with
I
everyone?
just think, and I agree with the chair, that in the meantime, people have been confused by this, so we need a short-term Band-Aid, but I agree with Danny, long-term, we need to do the RFP, but let's make sure we have a Band-Aid on this so that we're open now.
Well, so the RFP is the short-term Band-Aid. That is it. Otherwise, we don't have an operator. That's if we have 60 days, and we have 60 days to go out and find a new operator or negotiate a new contract with Endurance, that's our Band-Aid until the property is sold. Selling the property is the long-term solution for the county.
We're just trying to stay open for the
But
summer here.
if through that RFP process, we might find that Endurance is the only company out there who's willing to do this, and they may provide us a proposal that is at this or higher, and then we need to evaluate again, what do we want to do?
Okay.
Do we want to, shut it down, or do we want to accept that additional cost? So,
probably somewhere in between, probably raising the tip fees and using, hopefully some of the fund balance to get through to that point where we
Yeah.
can actually sell it.
Yeah.
That's what I think would be the end game, cause we don't belong in this business.
And I don't, I'm not opposed to having some more, maybe at a work session or sometime, talking about why we don't have more rural waste pickup. Where you can put your recyclable canister out, and you can put
we can certainly look into, what models are out there,
I
and
would just be curious, and it would have to be something I would hope homeowners and they would be on board with, but I think it should be interesting to just have a discussion about.
The recycling portion now is open, and people from the county can go there for free and drop off all of their recyclables.
It would be interesting to know how many do.
Kingston does.
We've done that for years.
Kingston's done it for years.
Yep.
They fill them right up, I don't know.
Castle too.
The companies that go around, I'm with West Central Sanitation. Do they only travel the blacktop roads or? I pay $80 for my garbage pickup for 3 months,
Yeah, that's.
and I
cheap
don't
enough.
think that's bad at all.
They go everywhere.
Yeah, they're,
They come out on the gravel,
yeah,
they come
yeah.
out by.
So
I think
it's
Litchfield
available.
has,
Other one?
town has
Yep.
waste management,
Oh, it's
then West
bad,
Central,
bad,
the
bad.
businesses have West Central sanitation.
ADV or some advantage or.
Anyway, moving on, so that would be our suggestion for you, Andrew, if everybody's in agreement?
Yep.
Yep.
Anything else, guys? All right, thank you.
Do you have video of the meeting?
We
No,
would-
that
we would
that,
like
their
one.
meeting
We
with
would
Ed
like
Duritz.
Bill Schmalz, Public Works Director.
Worked up as that.
Yeah, exactly. I wanna see Andrew's worked up personality.
I don't think he ever gets worked up, does he?
Boy,
Good. Let's-
I saw him right after that meeting and
Okay,
Good morning.
it's enjoyable.
Bill Schmalz, Public Works Director. A few items to go through this morning. The first one is to consider the approval of a joint powers agreement for the reconstruction of CASA 4 in Dassel. There's just an image of the work planned for Dassel this summer, primarily being overseen by the city's consultant, Bolton and Mink. But the turquoise color is our CASA 4. That's the section we're concerned with this JPA. The green is some underwater, or under street work, underground work that they're doing on some of their own system. So the project, the work is scheduled for 2022, the bulk of it. The final lift of asphalt is scheduled for 2023. It's about a $2.3 million project, and that would just be the turquoise portion on CASA 4. The county's responsible for about $650,000. That's just pulling numbers off of the initial engineer's estimate. The way we work with our cities, we take care of the road center 24 basically. So anything outside of 24 feet and anything underground is the city's responsibility. So that's how that cost split shakes out.
okay.
Is the city's standards any different than the county's as far as road? It says the city's engineers taking the lead,
So the road itself has to meet our state aid design standards, being it's a state aid highway.
Gotcha. So there's no issue there then.
Nope, there won't be any issue there.
Madam Chair, move to approve a joint powers agreement with the city of Dassel for the reconstruction of CASA 4 from US Highway 12 to north city limits of the city of Dassel.
Motion by Commissioner Schiefelbein, do I hear a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Second by Commissioner Schmidt, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
I will mention the city approved the same agreement last night at their meeting. So as soon as we get a signed copy, Corey, get it to me and I'll get it over to them so they can sign it.
Who does the city use, just as curiosity is all, who do they use for their engineer?
Bolton and Mink out of
Look at that.
Wilmer.
Yeah, kinda thought so.
Most people in the area use Bolton Lane, don't they?
Yeah, almost every city in Meeker County seems
I
to
don't know
use that
Litchfield
outfit.
does.
Next topic or group of topics is related to our 2023 equipment purchases. I'm bringing this a little earlier than some of the past years just due to the lag on getting orders in and actually taking receipt of equipment. Just a brief summary of I want to summarize the last couple of years to show you what equipment we're waiting for. 2021, actually in pretty good shape. We've received everything except for our 2 pickups. One of them is maybe within a month we'll have it here. There's another one that we're unable to order. So currently we're unable to place orders with our local dealerships is the situation. We may be able to place orders through the state contract through dealers further away from here. I know some other counties are working through an outfit in Bemidji. We're gonna explore that because this waiting to order pickups is becoming a problem. We're 3 pickups behind right now as far as ones we would have liked to replace. So for 2021, we plan to replace that pickup when we're able to place the order. The budgeted dollars, that should be enough to cover the pickup purchase. So we should be okay there once we can submit the order. 2022 budgeted equipment, the first plow truck, that's the Mack that you've maybe heard me talk about. It was in line, then it got booted. I'm told it should get back in line again at some point, but for now we're waiting on that one. 3 tractors are ordered. 1 should arrive this year, 2 should arrive in 2023. 1 pickup, same as the 2021 budgeted pickup, we can't order it right now. About $30,000 left to order that pickup when we get the chance. So 2023, proposing 3 pieces of equipment. We have 13 motor graders, 15 plow trucks. So if we try and maintain an approximate 15-year life cycle, which is our target, we're not there yet, but that's what we're striving towards. It's a motor grader and a plow truck most years. So the first 2 items I'm proposing replacing is replacing a 2001 John Deere 770C motor grader and a 2002 Sterling plow truck. Also crack sealing melter, our units from 1993, as we try and do more pavement maintenance. A newer unit would help us out. The biggest advantages to replacing our machine are less downtime. It is broke down a fair amount of the time. This spring has been special. It's actually been much more reliable than what we had to deal with last year. Also some heating features. It heats up quicker, you can get on the go quicker, melt new blocks quicker, so you don't have to stop and wait for material to melt. And it's got a heated wand. Sometimes on cold days when we're out crack sealing, which we do a lot in March and April, the rubber actually turns solid as it gets from the melter to the wand where you apply it. The new machine won't have that problem. But those 3 items, as you see there, it's an increase in our budget. It's not massive, but it is a significant percentage increase. Those 3 items come to about $650,000. Last year we budgeted $574,000 for equipment.
And do we know if that's the end of it? I mean, is it gonna be worse? Do we have a way of knowing? Is that how much it's gonna go up for sure, or can it go up more before?
For 2023 items?
Yeah.
I would say that's what I'm expecting for 2023.
We're not positive, I mean, it could be.
And you'll see where I've got some items where we have prices contracted that we can accept if we want to. And I've got a couple of not to exceed numbers in there to
Okay,
give us the authority to lock in what we can. And if we get above that threshold, then I'll be coming back.
okay.
I don't understand why we can't place orders in Meeker County with local pickup vendors. What is the issue there? I'm assuming things aren't available, but why can't we place an order for them?
I think it's because of the price we have access to as a county fleet operation. They don't make much money off of us when we buy pickups, so we're low on their priority list. They'd rather sell pickups to private individuals.
Who pay too much?
You have on a couple of occasions when Fastenal rotates out theirs. I know that you've bought from Fastenal in the past, haven't you?
What from Fastenal?
Pickups,
From Fastenal?
I think we bought a used pickup from
the
them.
used pickup,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh,
And that's something we've talked about internally, if we wanna look at buying used pickups, but the price of a used pickup right now is,
They're not rotating
same.
stock because they can't get them either.
This
So
was back when we needed something to replace them, might have been even before you, I don't remember.
I don't remember.
And we bought a used pickup that they had for sale to replace a really old
Model
one.
T.
It was kind of, we had a Model T we were replacing, if I recall, so.
I know Carlin has looked at some, used,
Well, it doesn't matter, I've been looking for a car, it's crazy.
yeah,
Oh, it's,
and we could do that, we could buy used equipment off a lot, but we might be paying more than what we could get into the state bid at once we have access to it.
Right.
Are other counties using Bemidji then? They must have
Yes.
it must be a bigger dealer up there or something where they can get a bigger amount of fleet? Is that what they're doing? And then saying, okay, we can get so many units and then,
I don't know how or why, but that's directly connected to our state contract, the pre-negotiated price,
Right.
where our local dealers will typically beat the state contract. We're just not getting that opportunity right now.
And this has been explained, it's been discussed with local folks, because of course, we like to do business locally.
Yeah, I think it goes up to the manufacturers more than necessarily your dealer at this location. So I'm sure the dealer would be more willing to work with us. But I know Carlin's told me salesmen will tell him, I'll go see if I could submit an order, and they basically can't in their program because of whatever's happening up at the manufacturer level.
it's real confusing, it's real unusual. I can tell
Hopefully
you
that,
for
hopefully
us
it'll
and the
change,
same
yeah.
thing. Yeah. Cause they're so far behind in terms of what's built and everything.
You're gonna hear the same discussion on when we talk about CCT and school buses, I mean, it's just, the way it is.
anything special,
8 of them.
any special.
Yeah.
We're
We can't-
behind 8 buses.
We're 8 buses behind from 3 years ago, so.
So what I'm looking for here today is approval to purchase those 3 items for 2023's budget. On the first one, as I stated, it's a 2023 JD 770G motor grader. There you see the state contract price, over $350,000. Trade value that they've offered us on our 2001 model, I think it's got about 12,000 hours, is $59,000. So our net replacement cost would be about $293,000 with that transaction. Blades, they expect we would have it 10 to 12 months from now.
You're putting about 500 hours on a year on blades, I mean, if I'm,
Must be, yeah. And I know our blades go through a rotation. We've got 8 blades that are used 100% year round. They have gravel road routes. Then we've got 5 blades that only have snow and ice routes. So once they're an older machine, we rotate them to snow and ice only rather than snow and ice and gravel. So they get more hours while they're in that top 8.
early,
And they slow down towards the end.
early in my life.
So, this was budgeted for in 2022, correct? Yeah.
No, this is my 2023 proposal.
Which we don't have,
We don't have an approved budget at this point.
It'll be in his budget.
but it
If
says
we
here the
approve it today, it'll be-
2022 equipment replacement budget was approved at 574,000, right?
Correct,
Or am I,
correct.
but you didn't get anything? I'm just a little bit,
2022, we ordered that Mack that got canceled.
Right.
And 3 tractors we ordered earlier, I think that was this year.
okay,
And
They're not
those are
coming.
those are going to be delivered, they're contracted, they're in process. And then 1 pickup that we haven't ordered. So the only thing we haven't ordered from 22 is the pickup.
okay.
And the Mack, I expect to get back.
I was
in
just
line.
trying to figure out the difference in money if there is any,
Yeah, yeah.
so.
Well, usually, or from the last year, you came in at about 2% increase, and sometimes I'm sure you go to your fund balance to keep that kind of that number, shooting for that number, so some of this could come out of the fund balance.
If we had to, yep.
If you kept in line with that 2%, which you did last year, right, and which is,
Keeps
as long
us
as
in-
we approve it,
Keeps us in line.
yeah,
Or
keeps
The
us,
budget
easy to
increase
stay.
you're talking.
yeah,
So it's the equipment on the whole, a 2%
no,
increase.
no,
I wish,
no, I meant just the budget itself.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, if this is approved, as we go into the budget process, we
Right.
will know that this is a hard number and we need to
Okay,
make adjustments elsewhere in the budget to make this work within
that was what I was.
what the board
concerned
is
with.
seeking for.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right,
So do you want these one at a time?
That's what I
Let's
had
move.
set up.
Yes.
You can take them omnibus if you would prefer, if you feel that the board is in consensus on all 3.
I'll make a motion to approve the, new motor grader for 2023 budget.
I will second it.
motion by Commissioner Schmidt, second by Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. The second item is the plow truck with snow and ice equipment. If you remember from past purchases, they're kind of separated because we buy the chassis separately from the snow and ice equipment. So here we have a 2022 Western Star, so it's a year older model wise, but it is in our 2023 replacement budget. It's a Western Star 47X off of the state contract. $133,000 is our price. The snow and ice equipment is an estimate. That's through Towmaster here in town. They won't commit to a price and lock us into a contract until we have that chassis until the chassis has a production slot. So that's why I use that $140,000 as an estimate. So net replacement cost for that unit is about $270,000. They're telling us we could maybe have it in about 2 years if we order now. We have a 2002 Sterling it's okay, but we'd like to keep that in our fleet as a backup, or if we have enough part-timers come in, we'll put it on the road. It's an okay unit. We usually don't get much for our used plow trucks. $10,000 seems to be what we've been getting since I've been here, so for that price,
Where do you sell them?
we'll trade them typically.
You just trade them
Contractors-
in, you don't sell them out, right?
For trucks, yes. Blades, sometimes we'll sell those, cause contractors may have an interest in those, but our trucks are set up with all of the underbody, all the snow and ice equipment that adds so much weight that contractors don't like them,
Okay.
cause they can't get much payload on them.
You should probably keep that old 2002, because as we saw Beth climbing into that one on your tour last week, if she's gonna drive for you, you might not wanna put her in the brand new ones.
Julie was behind me going like this.
Yeah.
I don't know if that solves very many
That'll be
problems.
nice.
Their car, but I don't wanna get personal on this one.
No, I can do it, I think.
Madam Chair, move to approve the purchase of a 2022 Western Star 47X plow truck from Boyer Trucks of Lauderdale, Minnesota at a price of $133,336, and snow and ice body equipment from Towmaster of Litchfield for a not-to-exceed price of $145,000.
Motion by Commissioner Johnson, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bredesen, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
The last item for consideration is the crack sealing material melter we discussed. Here, again, I have an estimate for the price at $78,500, but we believe that is what the price will be, but technically, the manufacturer is still in negotiations with the state on the contract
Seems
price.
like a lot of.
That unit, they're expecting delivery within about 10 months, which should, if we order it now, we'll be in good shape for next spring.
So this is just that tank thing that
It's a
they're
giant heater
$5,000?
melter, yes.
You know, I was watching them when they were out in front of my house. That was kinda interesting, cause they're running that wand into that crack. I can't imagine what happens if it does freeze up or cool down.
So there's,
Go get-
models
Go
have a
get a
warming
box of
cabinet,
filters.
so you'd have to coil up the hose and put it inside of that warming cabinet and stand around until
Oh,
it melts again, which is frustrating, trust me, when you have a crew out there waiting for the
Yeah.
rubber to melt.
well, traffic and everything else,
Yep.
so, yeah.
It hurts production.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the purchase of a new Craftco Super Shot 250 from Brock White of St. Cloud for a not-to-exceed price of $85,000.
Motion by Commissioner Schiefelbein, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Schmidt, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Now we're gonna recess the county board and convene the county ditch authority. John Condon, ditch inspector.
May I grab a cup of coffee?
Do you want a 5-minute break? Cause if you do, we can. Okay, we're gonna take five quick minutes. Sorry,
Cup of coffee.
that was,
We could turn it into a morning show.
hey, we're back, sorry about that. We're, back with the, county ditch authority, so, John?
Morning, everyone. John Condon, Meeker County Ditch Inspector. I bring for you this morning, some tree removal outside of the County Ditch 35 right-of-way. Tree removal currently is contracted on County Ditch 35, which is just east of town here, a few miles by Sparble. Right there, it's between 260th Street and Highway 12. I had sent out notification letters to all the affected landowners just so they're aware of what's going on. The one landowner had reached out to me with concerns that if we were removing trees on both sides of the ditch, that the few trees that will be left will be falling over, and his house is actually in pretty close proximity to those trees. So I met with them on site. There's no doubt there's a legitimate concern because the trees are on the west side of the house, so it would expose it to any west, northwest, any strong winds. Would definitely increase the potential of those trees falling over, and most of them just happen to be leaning right towards this house.
Do that.
It's a pretty narrow strip, I would say at the widest point, it's 15 feet wide, most of it's maybe 10. So, I have attached a couple pictures, so I mean, so you can, it shows out a couple trees along that strip along this house is what we'd be taking out additionally. And main reason is just for the fact of potential property damage or even safety concerns, you know, if he's sleeping overnight and a storm comes through or something like that. He had asked about, you know, the rest of his yard. I'm like, you know, just for an inconvenience of it falling in the yard, I don't look at it as any different than it falling in a field. It's just an inconvenience to the landowner. We wouldn't pay for that. But I feel that we could justify for safety and property damage right by his house, for removing those trees. One thing that this would be contingent on if this was approved is I would have the landowner sign just a simple agreement, just saying the, you know, the drainage authority has permission to be on this property, and then that he wouldn't receive any like damage payment because we removed the trees off of his property, before any of that work would be done. My estimated amount would be up to 1,500 to do the work. Being the contractor's gonna be there already, wouldn't take much more for him to take those handful of trees out, so
1,500, that's stumping too, or are we leaving the stumps?
they cut them pretty low.
Okay.
That'd be, and he was
So
fine
it's-
with that, yeah.
Okay.
Flush cut.
So there's no digging then?
No,
Okay. I was
No,
gonna
it's
say, who knows
just-
what kind of stuff, I mean, that propane thing looks really close, so.
no, we're just.
Sometimes they coil the, the underground tubing there, so it's just,
We're just
cutting
cutting the
them down
stumps
the stump.
flush, treating the
Gotcha.
stumps, and then getting rid of the material.
So is that whole row, you're cutting that whole row out?
Yep. Yeah, what's in that picture is, I mean, the ditch from the edge of those trees, the ditch is 25 feet. You can't see the ditch in that picture, but the ditch is only about 25 feet over from the edge of those trees. So you could probably see that width of the trees, you could easily divide that in half, and those are already going. Just because they're within the ditch right away, so then the ones that are left are on the outer edge that are leaning.
Okay.
Is this about a mile
It's just
north
south
of 12?
It's about a mile north, it's just off of 260th, just on the
260th,
south side of it.
okay.
Yep.
So how many feet toward the trees from that gas barrel there, from the propane tank, is his personal property? Where is the property line? I mean, how many feet?
His property line actually goes, I believe, right up to where the ditch sits, like the ditch bottom itself, that's where the property line from his neighbors and his split. It's just we have the right of way, the ditch easement going through there.
Okay.
So we'll be on his property, it's not on somebody else's property.
Madam Chair, move to approve the removal of trees outside of County Ditch 35 right-of-way contingent on the landowner signing a temporary access agreement.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Johnson, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Bredesen, any further questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Barb Lock.
Okay, the next item is the adoption of the County Ditch 17, and I noticed in the request for board action that we've got 19, or I've got cut and paste 19, so it's 17 all the way across as we talk. To acknowledge and adopt the redetermination of benefits for County Ditch 17 as revised by the court order. If you recall, back in November, you did adopt the redetermination of benefits, acquiring the grass strip and confirming the damages. The appeal by the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources challenged those benefits as determined on the properties known as Matson Wildlife. We did have a representation from the county, Steve Schmidt, John Condon, and our ditch inspector, the lead, Ron Rehnquist, and along with Kale, negotiated an amendment for the benefits on the property for that appeal of the DNR and a revised redetermination of benefit role that reflects that change. So before you today is the request that you do acknowledge and adopt the redetermination of benefits for Meeker County Ditch 17. Also earlier, we did allude to the DNR and what we paid to have this particular issue negotiated. And if you didn't see the itemized bill, it is available for you there from Ranking Noonan to the tune of $10,134. So that's available
Why are
with
you-
the payables today for this particular situation.
Give it
So if there are any questions regarding?
enjoy lawyer bills, right? I figured you'd just,
Anybody wanna see that bill? Commissioner Schiefelbein is insisting.
Is my per diem and mileage in that bill too? Or?
that's real small. That's like 0.1 hours.
On the back.
Zero,
Yeah.
0.0.
Well, they're very detailed in what they do and when we call on them, and so sometimes when you see the description, you actually know what they helped us with, it's very well.
Is some of their hourly rates based on like not the lawyer itself, it's someone else? Cause someone's
Correct.
0.8, gotcha, so it's a,
Yep.
whatever.
Right, we pay for staff in there, you'll see when
Gotcha.
he uses different titles like the, like SJB is on there, a couple of times it's one of his assistants, and JL is on there. So we sometimes are working with staff in
That's why it's not consistently 360
Correct.
an hour.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yes.
So we
And
don't
they do
really
bill
know what they
incremental.
charge.
You'll see
They
when
charge
you
360
connect
and
with
then
them,
they
do
charge
an
less if it's
incremental
somebody else.
minimum
Yeah.
billings.
Yep.
So
10 minutes.
So if it's Kale's
No.
time, it's probably 360 an
That's
hour,
5 minutes.
or if
Yeah,
it's
it's a run-
whatever.
negotiated rates will range with
10.
the scale that we sign that contract for, and then staff is aside from that. So if there aren't other questions on that, I believe this is what was negotiated and we recommend that we go.
So
Well,
we
Mr.
look for-
Negotiator, I think this may be your motion to make.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to begrudgingly approve final determination of benefits to CD ditch 17.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Then while we're on the ditch, information and just the heads up, I think each of you received the drainage registry information portal regarding the omnibus bill that's being considered. I sent out an email, that Kayla had asked that we forward to each of you. I think it's well worth your time to read through that, especially with some of the issues that we've been facing with, working with some of the other government bodies and what's probably proposed in here. So I think I'd make yourself aware of that particular, and if you'd like, I can send it again.
One question I had, Barb, are you very well versed, or do you know anything about, does anybody know? Renville County, and that's going to the Supreme Court.
Concerning what?
A ditch issue, I'm not 100%, but I talked to Commissioner Tom Peterson, Department of Ag, and he goes, let me guess what county you're from, Renville, and I said, no, close, but, so there's been some ongoing, I'm not very well versed in it, but there's some, it's going to the Supreme Court.
Litigation, that is, and permitting and whether they need to do an environmental study, I believe is the basic line of it, from the information that I heard on that one. Yes, they're really going up the ladder on that, so it might be worth your while just to read through this legislative alert as well, so that we understand what might be.
And there could be
Barb,
things,
can you resend that? I think I got it, but I don't recall.
Okay, I'll send it again today.
Thank you, I apologize.
And then I think, John had one that he wanted to discuss also.
Yeah, I had sent out the email yesterday, I don't know, I don't Paul seen it, invite back, regarding the JD 17, that Engen wetland easement. Kale had given us a couple options, and just kinda wanted to hear some feedback on how to proceed. My thought is to just have Bowser, draft up that order, have Kale review it, and then we can approve it at just at a normal board meeting. Otherwise, the other option is to have them file a petition, set a public hearing, and do all that stuff. Nothing physically changed out on site, it's just the project ended up working out, so. I think to save the landowner and everyone time, that'd be the most efficient way to do it.
So maybe bring back at the May 2nd meeting that you have 4 members here and there's one, for the neighboring county. So we can ask permission to have the action taken here if they so choose, or we can have a separate meeting where that individual could be invited as well. Sometimes goes both ways, especially when we're in the large majority. So it's
Have
up to you.
you talked to Candy? Are they,
I've talked with Lauren about it, he said whatever the most efficient way is to do it.
I think most of us
He
are
just wants it
concerned.
done.
The cost is concerning here, I think most of us are concerned, and we do have correspondence with, Kenny Ojai here as well.
Yeah, I've been in touch with them.
Least expensive, fastest way?
The least expensive and fastest way sounds best to me,
That's your
Yeah.
answer.
Sounds good.
okay? If everyone's in agreement, unless somebody would like to spend more money and take more
Drag it out a
time.
little bit here. Yeah.
that's
That's
called,
our other option.
Yeah, I
Danny, that's called trickle
well, I
up.
was
Yeah,
just,
trickle up, yeah,
Well,
I'm
in this case,
for
it will
trickling
trickle
down
up.
on this
We're
one.
gonna bill that,
Okay,
so we billed for this, that was their project, and so we will bill again for this
Yep.
project.
Okay.
So that is helpful for the system itself, because they shouldn't have to be paying for a lack of
No.
exploring ahead of time.
Very good.
Alright,
Alright,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're gonna adjourn the County Ditch Authority and reconvene the county board. Andrew, you're up.
The only item I have today is a quick update on the sale of the 701 Sibley Avenue property. Yesterday, we did an exploratory dig to find the mysterious underground storage tank that was on the site, and we succeeded in digging a hole and did not find a UST. So because of that, the buyer has agreed that they are satisfied with everything, and we're gonna move forward with closing on the sale. So looking to
I'm-
close on Monday next week.
After the facility meeting, I'm wondering if we should be selling. I'm sorry, but that's what I'm wondering.
I think that based on what we've seen through the core team, we have a very viable way of moving forward with the existing space that we have.
I get a little bit nervous when I get emails about, just to show you, we will look at a different building. Then I'm thinking, well, how silly then, because we've sold the only property that we could have probably used, so.
Yeah, and as I stated there, the intent is to provide a comparative analysis so that you have an understanding of what it would cost to build a new building. What we do know is that, while I don't have the numbers yet, we do know that it would cost more to build new than it would be to renovate the existing space.
I just don't wanna be sitting here with egg on my, well, none of us do, obviously, but that was just concerning when I read that. But the whole,
It's a comparative.
after I saw the pricing and I got up off the floor of Andrew's office, I said, how did Steve do?
I stayed relatively quiet.
All right, okay, so that's not a concern. So
Yeah.
what's the end game? People are really looking forward to having that store in town, I hear.
So my understanding is they have their approvals from the city, and that was contingent on closing, the closing the sale was contingent on their approvals from the city, so I would imagine they're
Good.
gonna move relatively quickly after that.
Good.
So,
I imagine those stores have one plan, right, and they come in and,
Once, yeah, the sale of the property is usually towards the tail end
Of the
of
process.
everything being in. So once it's closed on, they might be building there within a month. I mean, it's always tail end that you get closed on.
I think it was discussed at last night's city meeting. I was listening to the radio on the way in, and I think there was some talk.
I know they had to, I think they had to get us permit for parking or something,
yeah, they had a variation for
a
parking, I
variance
believe.
for parking or
Okay,
something. so.
Something in regard to that was discussed last night.
Do you have
Yeah.
anything else, Andrew?
No, that concludes my report, so.
All right, so Steve, do you wanna start or any updates?
Oh, yeah, I talked about some of them already. What did we? MMDC, granted Grove City Care, $3,000 for, elderly outside playground equipment, which is apparently something that's pretty common. I'm not real familiar with it yet. but
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, for senior citizens, they have a playground equipment,
Wow.
for lack of a better word.
I hope there's
I
not
know what
monkey
I
bars
got,
on
now I
there.
know what I got to
I
look
say, it's
forward
like
to
a-
in my retirement. This is fun.
Tilt-a-whirl and teeter
High-speed merry-go-round and.
That's the expensive package. though.
Yeah, I know.
Your kids might put you in just a box.
They
too,
might.
you know, it's like-
Don't give them any ideas.
They've had enough.
So that was part of MMDC on the 6th of the month. Also had yellow ribbon that day. Our county VSO could not be at yellow ribbon because he was helping late in the afternoon. He had a veteran that was in crisis that he was helping that day, so he was not there. So they were hoping to hear from him and get some feedback from Tim on that. And that same morning, we had the Sticker Shock facility planning meeting that we'll go more in depth next week and talk more about.
Oh, that's good.
I did attend NACO meeting, online meeting on procurement supply chain issues, and that's through Rural and Agricultural Development Committee on NACO. not a lot new there. They are trying to, things are getting a little better in certain areas, but then it seems like something new pops up too, so, that's an ongoing saga. Class and comp, we had a class and comp meeting, for the sheriff's department, and actually, I think that's good news. Our deputy that, he's a doctor, right? Can I say that? And, he was from Hennepin County and he worked part-time here in Meeker, has a house here in Litchfield. Worked part-time in Meeker, and he was, basically the hospital or the
Hennepin
doctors,
County.
somebody, the administration told him, you can't do that. You're gonna have to pick one or the other. Well, he picked being a cop. So he's looking to come here full-time. So that's something that's gonna be coming before Personnel Committee.
Not the doctor, the, paramedic.
Paramedic, yeah.
Is that
I mean,
different?
But he had to choose between one or the other, and he chose, he wants to get out this way and stay out here. So that is a good thing for our sheriff's department. And that's been highly praised by the ambulance services that we work with. I've been on some calls with him. He's good. He's very good to have on out in the countryside, so. So that's something that'll be coming for us. Then AMC had that Zoom meeting, monthly Zoom meeting. Public health looks to be in really good shape in both the House and Senate. They're looking at about $20 million in outstate funding to public health programs, so public health is gonna get some, it definitely looks to be high on that. Some small increases, and I talked with Greg and Brent on that on landfill funding and score funding type things. County program aid is on the table because we're still lacking greatly behind LGA for the cities. So county program aid, they're looking, there could be a small increase there. Other than that, that is all I had, I believe.
Danny?
I had class and comp with Steve. He kind of covered the community paramedics, which will be going next to personnel, I think, sometime. Discussing that because it's a new job, basically, that replaces the Hennepin County, what we were getting from their services, but they were very expensive per hour, so. But you'll get, that'll come to you guys, I think Julie and Paul. I also had a IT meeting yesterday morning, and it's basically discussing, the main thing was discussing social services was going to a different, what's the name of that software company that they're?
Caseworks.
Caseworks, from ISC?
No, different, yeah, oh, yes.
From
yes, yes,
ISC. They have ISC now. They're thinking of going to Caseworks. So we have to see, they're gonna go through the budget, Paul's gonna go through the budget process. If this goes through, there's an initial investment of about 81,000 if multiple counties go into it. And, basically this new program they suggest makes all the social workers and et cetera 30% more efficient in terms of their time, over the old package. And then we also talked about the treasury going to something else. It was ISC
It's
and.
an automated workflow process for treasurer's office. Right now, our accounts payable are all done by hand. It's all paper. So looking to have that become electronic. So, but exploring which option is the best for us.
Right. One of their options is the one we're actually moving away from social. So, so that was
What are we
interesting.
moving away from?
ISC.
ISC.
Yep.
We've had that forever, right?
Yep. So, but she's gonna do some more sharing, it's gonna do some more information
There he is.
that, and then I had a Joe Shamala, I think from Lake, Wasilla. They contacted, emailed Beth and I think it's because he probably voted for the bigger culvert. I don't know why, we were involved in that part, but he showed a presentation with Phil and Andrew and the two of us showing why he's a civil engineer out of, I think at St. Louis Park, and I think he's more on sewers and stuff, and had some different software that showed what he thought the bigger culvert would do to lake levels and et cetera, so he just gave us that for information and, you know, we listened to it. And, I think the DNR is gonna do their own modeling on it too.
They're gonna relook at it again, I guess.
Well, they're gonna do, DNR, we hired Erickson to do the modeling.
Right.
And the DNR are gonna do a new, different modeling thing. And they're probably, after talking to Ethan, he's suggesting that he think it's gonna be the same results.
Ethan showed up.
No.
I talked to him prior to the meeting, no.
I joined the meeting by Zoom, and if I told you I was confused, I'd be I mean, I was confused, I'll just say. Maybe it was different being in person, but you're talking a lot of numbers. I'm like texting Andrew going, I'm lost.
I was lost through a lot of it too.
So-
It's high level.
You're still
engineering stuff.
real,
So what it sounds like to me is it was
I won't put that in it.
two different softwares that were used to establish the size, right?
Yep.
Nobody's sure where the numbers came from. So it's good for Ethan or the DNR to take another look. This, you know, this guy worked really hard on it. He's honest in he wants the smaller the better. Cause like you said, he has issues. He doesn't agree with what's gonna happen with lake levels and stuff, so we'll see.
It was mostly lake levels, it wasn't so much, well, he had some other, he thought it was a cost involved, he said something about dredging and stuff. He wasn't focused on traffic, where everybody else.
Well, it was
at
when
that
he
time-
talked to me.
Oh, he was,
He
so that,
called a little bit. I mean, well, I don't know, I can't say.
during
that.
our discussion, he wasn't.
He just
so.
presented it.
So is he looking at lower lake levels?
I think he's concerned
He's
about
concerned.
lower lake levels than
Lower
is
is what
being predicted.
Yes.
Yes.
So the ultimate, what it comes down to is he disagrees with the calculation that our hydraulic engineer put together. He's using a different software package than what our hydraulic engineer put together or used. Our county engineer has told us that he believes that what he has been told is that the software package that this resident is using is not the appropriate software package for this sort of hydraulic study. It's for urban storm sewers.
Hydraulic study,
Yes.
but not this.
It's for urban storm sewers, not rural areas.
Okay.
And what it comes down to is when he puts in, Joe Shamla, when he puts in the entire drainage area, it kind of blows up the numbers in his model. Well, so what DNR is doing is they're doing a hydraulic study to verify the drainage area. If the drainage area that they have is correct, if that doesn't change, well, then it confirms the fact that the software that is being used is incorrect software for this type of modeling, and the results are frankly incorrect.
Very nice guy, and I seem to have done a lot of work on it.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
took the time, so it's good that
Well,
the
and
DNR is looking
the
at it
biggest thing
again.
for me was a controlled lake outlet. You know, as long as that has capacity to handle a larger
Right.
flow through a bigger culvert, so
Right.
the water can get out, so you're not raising it too high in a storm event, then
What we've
But-
run into
What the
is
hell?
very technical engineering issues that are above, I think, as
My pay
Beth
grade,
had
for
said,
sure.
it's above, those of us
Pay grade?
who are not engineers,
Yeah,
our ability to understand.
So it's great, they're gonna take another look, and I think that's a good answer, so.
It is a good idea because right now you only have 60 years of data
Right.
that the existing one works.
Only.
And we're projecting to put this culvert in for the next 100 years. And if it doesn't work, it's too late. So,
True.
said by me.
Anything else from you?
that's it,
All right.
that's all I had.
Julie, go ahead.
Next.
Sure.
Okay, well, of course, back on the fifth, we had our regular meeting here in the boardroom. Then a week later, we had our road trip, a very enjoyable tour. We toured the north half of Meeker County. We
That's
went to
the
the
big
snowplow, the grader garages and dead ends, and it was
You
very
enjoyed
nice.
that. That was kind of
course, that
fun.
was fun, sure. So we thank Phil for
You don't enjoy our
organizing
company
that.
as much as her.
I guess not.
That was very nice.
Julie doesn't get out very often.
No.
does she?
Actually does.
But that was a nice.
No, it really was
nice
interesting,
morning.
yeah.
I enjoyed that.
It would have been nice had we had lunch, but we didn't. so.
Yeah, we'll have to make a note of that.
You had a snack when we stopped at Jack's.
Oh, yeah, we
I
did.
did get a can of pop and a candy bar, so. And then on the 13th, Paul and I had our aquatic invasive species meeting here in the boardroom. That was Wednesday the 13th. Our program coordinator was not able to attend that day, so the meeting turned into more of a, I'd call it a brainstorming session, a discussion for upcoming, like our summer programs and some equipment issues, ideas for educating people. Paul, have you got anything to add to that, or?
No, and just to Ariana, the program director, unexpectedly could not be there.
No.
And she had nothing, no choice in that matter. It was an unrelated issue, so it wasn't like she skipped the meeting, it
No,
was
She wasn't able.
unavoidable.
Wasn't able to attend. So, alrighty.
Gotta put that in my
yeah.
reservoir of information for future meetings.
Yes.
Then on a week now from today, we'll have, we're having our regular meeting today, and then now this Thursday, I have the Pioneer Land Library meeting, that's coming up Thursday evening. And then a week from today, we have an extension meeting, the regular extension meeting, and I think that's gonna be at the fairgrounds, Danny, I think that's upcoming, that's a week
The
from
meeting's
today.
new to me, so I
Yeah,
better
and then we're having another work
remember that
session. A work session a week from today.
Yep.
That's coming up.
That's the big one.
And I
Thank you.
think that's
Oh,
it.
sorry, I thought.
Yep, I'm finished.
That's it, that's all you did?
That's it.
What do you
That's
mean,
it.
well,
Short and sweet.
Well, we'll start out with a Prime West meeting, and that was up in Alexandria. The lawsuit, we're still hoping for a summary judgment in our favor, but the judge has not ruled on it as of yet, so that particular lawsuit continues on. We did find out, Prime West had set aside 1.6 million, am I correct on that number, Beth?
correct.
That was to be given to grants to help our nursing homes and our elderly homes in the Prime West area for retention and hiring benefits, to help them with their need, because they are so short. We can't get folks out of the hospital because these facilities are so full. We learned that our Meeker Manor have been given a grant of $50,600. And so, that was kind of good news. We have 24 people on Prime West who are in Meeker Manor. So that is, it was kind of done based on how many residents.
So each Prime West County, whoever, if you had, it went by how many Prime
Yes.
West people you were serving in long-term care, and, go ahead.
And I did reach out to the administrator of Meeker Manor to make sure that, you know, we wanted all those Ts crossed, all those Is dotted, so they did not get that $50,000 grant. And she has made contact with Jim Villa, and they are working on getting that finalized. So that was a good thing. Learning that Prime West is very benevolent in how they look at their member counties and things that they can do within the member counties to enhance things. Then on Friday, we had a CCT meeting in Wilmer, in which we talked about before. We are 8 buses short, still waiting on 8 buses. We generally don't run a bus much over 150,000 miles. A lot of our buses have 250 on them now, because we just can't get replacements. They've got, the reserves are the oldest in the fleet because they are also the most costly to repair. But when we look at ridership, and I'm very pleased with this, because I always compare us to Candy, Ohio County. Now, if we think about Candy, Ohio County, they have so many more residents in Candy, Ohio County than does Meeker County. Yet, their ridership, and I'll just take the last week that we had data for, 327 to 42, their weekly passengers were 1,900. Meeker County, our weekly passengers were 1,500 during that same period. So Meeker County residents really use CCT for their transportation. So I think it's good to get some of those numbers out there so you can see sometimes just how much ridership there is. Because if you're like me, it always seems like whenever I see a bus going by, it's empty. But obviously, they're on a deadhead run because they're doing an awful lot of transporting throughout the course of a week. So 1,500 one week, so, financially,
How many buses does Candy Ojai County have? How many buses do
I have no idea.
we have 11, if I'm correct.
11 in Meeker?
I have no
think-
idea what Candy has.
Candy Ojai, how many would they have?
But you have to
Buffalo County?
understand, when we say Candy Ojai County, they do all of our repairs, and so we're shuttling buses back and forth. So they have more buses, but when one of ours is down because it's ill, that backfills it. So, you know, they should have more, we gotta have a backfill spot, so. Then as I indicated to all of you, I went to accepted the invitation that, Litchfield Fire Department, really interesting to me, that really was. I mean, they walked me through it. I mean, Litchfield serves several of my townships they have contracts with for fire protection. So, it was good to see the equipment that they roll out there with and, kind of get a little, history plus a little, here's what we do in the case of this, here's what we do in the case of that, so, that was.
When you said interesting, I was wondering if you meant the smelt or the,
Yeah, I was,
or the,
what was it?
the fire department.
He got a free plastic fireman's hat?
No, I didn't win one.
Oh,
I tried.
Really?
I tried.
One of
But
my-
the-
Probably a little small.
One of my coveted Christmas gifts as a child.
But the fish and smelt, you know, I mean, that was, turned out to be kind of a byproduct for me because I knew one of the firemen, he's hoping to be assistant chief in the next year or two, and he gave me the tour, so I had to cut my eating short. Yeah, you know. Then we had a CPT executive meeting, and as I have indicated before, we are in the search for a new executive director. I don't know if that's the exact title, is it?
I think so,
Yeah, and Andrew's probably getting tired of me volunteering him for several things, but I volunteered him to be on the committee that wrote up the job description that we're going to post. So we discussed that, how we're gonna post it, how wide a net we're gonna cast to try and get someone, and to make sure that we get the right person in there, because that's what we want. At the end of the day, we want CPT providing the best possible service to our counties. CPT, I think that's all I have. Oh, tomorrow I'm back to Morris to CPT. The chair and I are going to speak with all the employees of CPT, to let them know just exactly what's going on and how we're progressing. Bob Kapitsky is the chair, and he is also a Stevens County commissioner. And the executive board felt that it would be good if someone other than Bob spoke to the employees. Bob will be there, of course, but someone other would speak, because it always seems he's there every day. He goes in and visits CPT, I think, almost every day. So they thought maybe a different voice, a different person would be a good way of communicating with the employees exactly what's going to be happening, so.
Cool.
Oh, and we had a hospital board meeting yesterday.
Yes, we did.
We had a lot of discussion about the investments.
Yep.
And we made a decision on investments, but I'll let Beth go over the hospital board when she does her report. That's it. That's all I got.
I also had Prime West Finance and Prime West. Easton Place is the name of the other complex that they had before they bought the place that they're in several years ago. And they've been trying to sell it, and they actually sold it to Canute Nelson, which has long-term care units up by Alexandria. So they were glad to get rid of that. Not rid of it, it's a nice facility, but it's been on the market a long time. We had a discussion at the finance committee about the RFP for the DHS and how complex it was this time because of throwing, you know, we are not Hennepin County. So Jim is pretty progressive in his thinking, and he actually had employees that practiced on how to do an RFP in these bigger counties, so that when we had to do this, they were prepared, and they, the way it sounds, they did an excellent job. It was like 1,000 pages. I mean, it's just crazy. It's
Several
just-
sets. One of the sets was 756
Right.
pages of questions.
Right. So, but he knew enough to think ahead, and so that was kind of impressive for me. We're short in Minnesota over 20,000 nursing assistants in long-term care, and every month when we talk about it, the issue gets worse. Hubbard County especially is a poor county. Shar is talking about, you know, they may have to still close some, your loved ones are not gonna, it's really dire. So I hope when, the powers that be in St. Paul talk about all this money, they try to find a way. And I'm not saying it's money but we have to find out what the issue is, cause it's getting very dire.
Have they partnered with, now there was a program at the community college where anyone who wanted to be trained
Right.
as a CNA could do so tuition
Free,
free.
but I just think people aren't picking up that, I just don't think that's happening. Maybe we have to find a way to keep more of our parents, I don't know. Home, I don't know, some of them you can, some of them you can't, but it worries me because it's gonna be an issue that all of a sudden we're gonna take our parents somewhere and there's not, the door isn't gonna be open, so it's gonna
Like
be a problem.
administration through our hospital, do they discuss, they're aware of these things, do they
The
talk?
hospital?
Do they talk
Oh,
to
sure.
Bridgewater and
Sure,
say,
sure,
can you
yeah.
send your folks
But
our
I don't know if this
direction?"
is a hospital, this is a Prime West thing more, where it's discussed more because we actually have Prime West people that are in these places.
Sure.
So, yeah. Another thing is our enrollment now is like 51,000 because during COVID, they haven't re-enrolled people. But that will go down probably, you know, so it's hard to budget the money because you really don't know. They think some of them will go to Meeker, Minnesota Care. So we'll probably get back down to that 45,000 enrollment or something, so, yeah. What else did I have? I had CCT also. We had a little discussion about the building and, that we're needed to build bigger. But it sounds like the building we're looking at probably isn't gonna work, so that's a discussion.
We got a little sticker shock on that
Yeah,
one too.
that was like everything else. We had I feel like I'm forgetting something. We had hospital board yesterday. We did talk a lot about the investment committee. And I think the hospital's gonna set up a couple people with Nicole, so when you make decisions on the investments or whatever, which direction they could go. We got a situation update from Ann on COVID. The triage line is down to less than 10 people a day calling. All the vaccinations are being done in the clinic, and I think we're at about a 3.5% or 4% for the county, which is good. Now, I think some of that is attributed to the fact that people are getting these in-home tests, which, by the way, a lot of times it sounds like they're getting a negative when it should be a positive, but nobody is gonna very few are gonna call public health and say, I have COVID, right? So,
3.5%, what did?
Testing,
testing,
testing.
Oh, testing.
And if you test positive at home with a home kit, they retest you when you come in because.
well, they're talking
of
about the positive rate of the
Yeah.
testing, but the garage that we use, we don't even use it anymore, I mean, so it's just, although they're worried about the variant, I feel like it's kinda behind us.
Heard the board chair gets parked in the garage now.
No, I wish, I.
You know how far away that is? That'd be a long walk.
That was about it. It was a pretty uneventful meeting, so. We are still looking at the clinic, that's in the very infancy stages, so more to come on that. That's all I have.
That's enough.
We're running late now, I suppose. I thought we'd be done earlier, I apologize. It's Paul's fault.
Second that.
Oh, who's your right away?
Throw you under the bus, you
Yeah,
might as
look
well
for
run
it.
you over twice.
Every
huh?
week, somebody gets a turn. So we're gonna adjourn and, lunch, I believe at 11:45 at the American Legion downtown here under the blue awning.
What are we having?
We're having deep fried chicken, mashed potatoes, gravy, vegetable. It's what we have every boys and
I'll
girls.
make a motion to it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Yeah.
Never look
I
at
am
me,